for starters, I'll let you come out of the closet as clearly as possible. Would you call yourself an atheist or an agnostic?
Well, I don't like the term atheist because it usually means somebody who's going around upbraiding people and trying to force them to listen to his arguments for why there is no God. I don't think there's a God, so I'm an atheist, but I don't make a deal of it. I think it's not that I passionately believe there is no God. It's that, of course there isn't a God, but so what?
So the difference in your mind is not one of how confident you are that there's not a God. I mean, you're 100% sure there's not a God.
100%, am I 100% sure of anything?
Okay.
I'm as sure of it as I am of anything, yeah, I guess.
Okay. But not 100%. I mean, the reason I ask is because that version of atheism has always struck me as, in some technical sense, logically indefensible, right? I mean...
You can't prove a negative.
Right.
I think it was Bertrand Russell once said he couldn't prove that there was not a teapot orbiting Mars.
Right.
So he's a teapot agnostic. I'm a teapot agnostic with regard to God, too, I suppose. I can't prove that God doesn't exist.
Right. And what are you...
For one thing, the reason I can't prove that is that apparently no two people mean the same thing by God.
Right.
And some people, what they mean by God is nature. Well, that exists, and they worship nature.
Right.
So do I, in a way. Does that mean I believe nature is God? Well, who knows?
Yeah.
It's not supernatural.
Okay.
It's wonderful as all get out, but it isn't supernatural.
Okay. And do you feel you're missing anything? I mean, do you wish you could believe in God? Is there no void in your life?
No. In fact, I think that's actually a much more interesting question for to ask most people, or actually it's hard to ask them because they don't want to answer it. I have a feeling that not that many people actually believe in God. Many people believe in belief in God. That is, they think it's a good thing, and they try to believe in God, they hope they could believe in God, they wish they could believe in God, and they say they believe in God. They go through all the motions, they try very hard to be devout, and sometimes they succeed, and for periods of their lives they actually do, in some sense, believe that there's a God, and they think they're the better for it. Otherwise, they behave like people who probably don't believe in God. Very few people behave as if they really believe in God. A lot of people behave as if they believe they should believe in God.
Well, how would you behave if you believed in God?
You would perhaps, and some people do this, be prepared to take what other people would call suicidal risks because you believe God is going to be there to save you. You would be prepared to give away everything that you own because God commanded you to do it, and so forth.
Well, yeah, although there you're actually talking about a specific conception of God.
Yeah,
it's not
right.
any conception of God that would make you think you could take risks without fear of death.
No.
And I guess that's...
Well, that's one of the problems with belief in God, is that it is so amorphous and undefined. It's not believing in helium or believing...
What I'm saying is there can be different definitions. It may also be amorphous, but I'm just referring to the problem of there being...
Sure, many different definitions.
Right. So. But along those lines, you're rejecting also the idea of kind of higher purpose of any kind?
Higher than our purposes? Yes.
Yes. Do you manage to be a good person?
I think I'm.
In your objective judgment.
Well, like all the children in Lake Wobegon, I think I'm above average in morality.
Well, congratulations. Above average for a bright or for
no
you're about an
average. There's the things I've done that are wrong. I've got my little bits of guilty conscience, but I don't think I've done anything very, very bad. And I think I've done a lot of good.
I guess the question is, you don't see belief in God or even belief in any kind of higher power or even a belief in a transcendent foundation for morality. You don't see any of that. That's really necessary as far as creating good behavior.
Let's talk about transcendent and morality. One of the things that we have evolved to discover on this planet is arithmetic. We didn't invent it. We didn't make it. We found it. Mm-hmm. It is eternal, a priori, true. It's just great stuff. And it's true everywhere in the universe. It's true everywhere in any universe. There's only one arithmetic. Now, is that transcendent? I would say, yeah, that's, I don't know for sure what you mean by transcendent.
It's kind of like a Platonic thing that was
it's sort of, yeah, it's this sort of Platonism.
And we happened upon its truth.
We've discovered it, and it's true. Now, could there be a sort of similarly Platonic ethics? Could we find the universal principles of good behavior for intelligent beings? I'm agnostic about that. I don't see why we couldn't. I don't see that the parochialism of our concerns would necessarily stand in the way of. I mean, we can ask the same question about ethics that we ask about arithmetic. If we went to another planet, if the search for intelligent life, extraterrestrial life that was intelligence, if this paid off, if we discovered another civilization somewhere, in the galaxy that was intelligent, what would it share with us? Well, it would certainly share arithmetic. Maybe not base 10 arithmetic. That's anybody's guess. It might be base 12 or base 16 or base 8. Who knows? That's an accident. But it would still be arithmetic. Now, we can say, and would it share ethical principles with us? And I think, in some regards, yes, it would. Now, does that make those principles transcendent? Yeah. It's not might makes right, and it's not, this is what our grandfathers did, so this is what we're going to do. It's not just historical accident. I think that there could be a truly universal basis for ethics.
You mean to get to a point where any species could produce these great kind of collective products, which technologies and things are, they would have to come up with rules of the road for collaborative, cooperative interaction. Sure. Okay, and is that...
it's like the evolution of cooperation.
Right, very much. Yeah. And I mean, you could almost say that it's like a, I don't know, and I talked about this with Steve Pinker a little too, who discusses it in I think one of his books. I don't know if he used the phrase "strange attractor," but it's kind of like a truth that's out there.
It's an attractor,
that certain kinds of evolution are going to happen upon when they get in the vicinity. Now,
it's what I call a good trick with a capital G, capital T in Darwin's Dangerous Idea.
Right.
There are these good tricks of design which are going to be discovered again and again and again because they are the eternal good tricks. Arithmetic's one. Yeah. I think ethics is another.
Now, what if somebody noted this by way of suggesting that adds to the evidence that evolution had some purpose? If it naturally happens upon something that even you would agree is moral truth, okay? Natural selection is likely to produce a species that happens upon moral truth. Doesn't that lend credence to the argument that maybe there was some point to the whole exercise?
I don't think so.
No? I was kind of thinking you might say that. I don't know.
It just happens. And we can explain why it happens.
Does death bother you? You said that one definition of a bright, this emerging interest group to which you proudly belong, is that they don't believe in life after death. Yeah. Would you rather there were life after death?
No, I'd rather live to be 1,000. but
then if you died at 1,000, what would be your preferences for an afterlife?
I think the concept of an afterlife is a very useful fantasy for handling the grief of small children and others, and I don't disparage it. I think it takes a very strong and brave person to take on the task of comforting a child whose parent has just died, for instance. And the consolation value of believing that mommy's up there watching you is boy, that's a lifeboat in the storm, if ever there was one. it is so transparently useful at times like that,
Right.
that I dare say that is enough to explain its popularity as an idea for our species for all time.